Hi, welcome in everybody. In this video, I will be going over the 8 bank statement issues you must fix right now if you want to get funding for your business, and doing this very fast and thoroughly. But before I get started, if you're watching me here on this live, give me a hashtag live. If on replay, hashtag replay. I will give this room a little bit of time to heat up. Welcome in. Good to see you. Happy you could make it. Again, I'm going to be going over the 8 bank statement issues you want to avoid. And if you are currently the person experiencing this, you may not know it, but it is causing you to not get funding at all, about 90+% of the time. And then that other 10%, yes, you can get pushed through, but it can result in you getting less than you would have expected, which is something we always have in our mind. But again, let's let this room heat up for a little bit. Mark, welcome in. Castaigne, am I saying that right, or is it Dale? Good to see you. Happy you could make it. We'll get started in a moment. I got my notepad out, laptop out in front of me. I just finished having a late dinner, guys. I had a Zoom meeting with my team. You guys are going to really like this one. You guys are going to enjoy this. I already had this similar knowledge beforehand, but I just wanted to make sure that I reiterate this and I put it out in this piece of content. This might be later on uploaded to the YouTube channel. Let me know where you guys are tuning in from. Hectic, good to see you. Jeanette, Chris, Julie, John. Happy you guys could make it. Take a seat. Get your cool beverage, your water. Take a sip. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comment section. But I am going to go try to speed through these 8 bank statement issues. Most of us business owners, and listen, I've been through these myself, so I know what it comes down to when you're trying to get any type of funding, any type of bank funding, business loans, even real estate financing, and the list of products, it goes all around. So now let me get into this, because it looks like our room has become more open. And again, for those of you tuning in, we're going to get right into this. So I have my notepad out here. I wanted to write these down. I have it in my computer stored, my slide notes and everything, but since I'm here, I'm going to do it in this format. So I've written them down, and I'm a person who likes to write a lot. I have my CRM tools. I have my Excel spreadsheets that I can be very well at, but I'm still one of those people who likes to keep it old school. You know, even though I'm a millennial, I've always been very old school about things. So one of these issues that arises, can you guys guess? And one thing too, if you guys have an idea of what one of these 8 or maybe more than one are, leave them in the comment section. And then I will go ahead and shout you guys out for making sure it's there. I promise I won't try to look down upon you if you said something wrong. I get it, I've been there. So number 1, and this is, we're gonna kind of try to go through this where like the last one, I don't want to say it is the most important one, but it is like the number 1 reason. You want to stick around for number 8, because this one right here is the sole reason, I want to say the sole biggest reason why so many of you will get declined or will not get enough funding. Very crucial. And I've spoken to many business owners today, in fact, and we've spoken about how many of these they can have, and I gave them somewhat of a percentage of what they can take. So with number 1, we have revenue. No brainer. It's revenue-based funding. It's called that for a reason. I won't cover EIDL right now, Peter. I'm going to stick to these 8 first, and then I'll try to answer these questions at the end. If you have something related to these 8 bank statements, I'll go from there. I just want to keep it on a straight linear, not on a tangent for now. So we have revenue. So this is the biggest one in terms of the product or the service. So if you're walking in to get some type of working capital, maybe you're in an expansion phase. Many of you have submitted in a form, which, by the way, if you have not, in the bio, you click on the link, you go to the funding submission form, click there, you can put in your funding details, and in a matter of seconds, it transfers right over to my email. It's confidential between you and I, and then I will be able to give you a proper and very thorough response. I've already sent a lot of people who've been grateful that I've taken the time to write such an in-depth amount of options. But with that said, you're going to want to tune in and find out at the end of this why you shouldn't always apply for so many different offers in so many different places. So number one being revenue, and that's starting. I want to reverse engineer this, but let's start at the beginning. Ground level, do you have the minimum? Before we start thinking, okay, well, I'm doing 80,000. Of course I have the minimum, Michael. We've spoken before. Sorry, me. No, the thing is, the minimum. Most lenders, the underwriters, myself, that we all communicate with one another across the industry, we want to see at least 5,000 plus monthly within the last 3 months. No exception. And I'm going to give you an example here in just a second. So revenue, do you meet the minimum requirement? We're not looking right now at the largest amount you're doing per month in revenue. That's great for a projection. But let's say, for example, your revenue, you have your latest month, we'll say the end of January, before your bank statements hit or they've already hit. You did 80K. Now, let's say in December, you did 40K, and then November, 20K. You probably know what I'm about to tell you. If we've spoken, you've heard this before. Listen, we take into consideration at least your last 3 months. If we needed more, that would mean specifically because you're requesting more revenue. Maybe there's some specific data we have to look at and pull information from. But within those 3 months I just gave you, in the November with 20K, do you honestly believe, if you're doing 80K and you're wanting 100K, do you believe truly, logically, not emotionally, that you will get accepted for that? Right, and the answer is no, if you guys guessed that. I know it's a very obvious thing, but for some of us, in a lot of us actually, it isn't. We immediately jump to a conclusion that, well, I just had an 80K month, or maybe it was the other. Let's turn it around. Maybe in November you had an 80K month, in December you had a 40K month, and then you had another 40, or maybe let's do a 20K month. But I had an 80K month within the last 3 months. Shouldn't that help me get approved for what I wanted, or more or less? If I don't get exactly what I wanted, can I get maybe 75% of that? Now, that's a raise for concern, because if the initial amount you wanted was 100K and you did those types of months, you likely will not even get close to that. We're going to look at that 20K because it is one of your lowest months, and the projected value of 80, 40, 20, it shows that you're going on a decline. Myself, the underwriters, the lenders, we all communicate this again, and we know for a fact that if it were a 20K month, you probably wouldn't even get close to 40. You probably wouldn't even get close to 20. We'd probably give you, because maybe you had an 80K month, we can adjust that and look at and at this point, guys, we're not looking at the average. We can't average when you have a 20, maybe a 40, and then an 80, or 20, 60, 80. It kind of throws the numbers out of place. If they were a little bit more conjointed and connected, or let's say we're doing 60, 80, 80, then we can take a lower amount, and then we can see the average of the three, and then we can compare with your credit score. We can compare this and see how your background checks out, and all this other information, the documents that you've provided us with, sufficient amount of deposits, which I'm going to get into in my next one. I promise I'll get into it right now, but this is so valuable, guys. This is directly with me communication with the underwriters, and the underwriters in communication with us. So this is stuff that I can retrieve for you guys to better understand, unlike other people who just try to call you out of the blue. I've had people who, like, I get it, I don't really call from the beginning, so I just send out an email, and then if need be later on I do. The thing is, your revenue is not in direct correlation. It's not in that graph. It's like a scatter plot. Remember in school, you had to put a scatter plot together, and then you had some outliers. You had your medians and modes. And so on the other side, you had probably the most. So that's what we're looking at with revenue. So make sure you at least do the minimum, and then the rest of it, we will try to take care of it with understanding how much revenue you're doing. And that leads me to number 2. Another issue in these bank statements is not enough deposits. We require at least 3. Some companies will require 4, maybe a little bit more. But for the most part, on average, across the whole industry, we want to see at least 3 deposits in your account per month. And we're talking about consistency here. It doesn't exactly have to be a deposit of the same amount each and every time. The bigger the better of a deposit, but not always the case. Because if you have at least a bigger deposit, let's say somebody has a 10K and then somebody puts in a 40K. Now, the person who has 10K is doing it consistently at least 3 times. No, they're doing it 4 or 5. The more, the better. And that 10K can add up to that 40K with just 4 deposits. And it doesn't have to be a consistent 10K each and every single time. But the person over here who has a 40K deposit only did it once or twice. Barely got to 3. And we looked at within those last 3 months. And I look at bank statements myself. So I know this stuff firsthand because before I even send things to an underwriter, if need be. A lot of the times people will check in with me if I don't have to do it. I like to do it, but people will want me to check and say, okay, what was the reason why I got declined? Michael, can you show me in this report what I'm not seeing, and I can thoroughly go through it. But what happens is with these deposits that are not consistent, you have a 40K that you only deposited once or twice in this month. Maybe the last month you did the same. Maybe it was just 3, and then maybe it was 1 again. You know what the problem is there? This is going to decline you. This is like almost an automatic decline with one exception. Now, if you are an A-paper lending client, and I've said this in other videos, meaning that you have at least 50, we're talking about upwards of 35 to 50,000 plus in revenue per month. And maybe you have only 1 deposit, but you have a 700 plus FICO. We're looking at that like pushing past good into great and even into excellent and the 800 plus. If you have a 700 plus, preferably is what we want to see as the standard here. You see it with other companies where they're like, if you have at least a 680, that's sufficient enough. In a way it can, but 700 is what we like to see, and that's what our criteria is here. So a 700 plus, you have 1 deposit, you're doing, let's say, you hit that 50K plus per month, which is ideal. And then you have the time in business. You maybe have 2+ years in business. You're just not in the 6-month range. You're maybe not in the 1 year and 3 months. I don't want to hear it all. Well, I have 1 year and 8 months. I deserve a monthly payment. I've spoken with so many people today, and they think that they're better than these daily/weekly payments. And I get it. We all don't have the right sufficient cash flow to keep us afloat. We're not stable enough. We're not on an increase. That's not always your fault. That's just the nature of your business. It's a seasonality thing. So you have to have these things in line. And if cash flow is a problem, if the reason why you don't take a daily payment is a big reason because of that. And there's a lot more things behind it that I won't get into in this one. But there are other opportunities out there. You may be a business line I helped the gentleman today get acquainted with a business line of credit, and I have more of them coming through. Because maybe they don't have the sufficient cash flow. Oh, well, I'm doing well in revenue. What do you mean I don't have the right cash flow? Well, if we look through your revenue and we look through these bank statements again, do you have sufficient revenue? What's happening in the account? You're not making enough deposits? Okay, but if you're an A-paper lending client like I just mentioned, you have a 50,000 preferably, you have a 700 plus FICO, you have the years in business, preferably 2+ years, then most lenders will overlook that. They'll bypass that. In fact, they won't even get on a call with you. They won't even send you an email for the most part. They won't get on a call. They're just going to say, hey, we're going to wire this person ACH payments. Or we're going to do it this way. Boom. In your account. You know what to do with it. Okay? So deposit numbers can get you declined. And they can also push you past with that exception. So for those of you who will only accept, at the end of the month is when you get paid. Again, it's only that exception. If you're getting paid at the end of every month and you're not making those deposits in the account, specifically, and it's not only with cash advances, but this is a lot to do with even business term loans and everything else you would expect in the industry, then you can almost forget about it. And I know it can be very difficult. And for those of you who are nonprofit, especially in the agriculture field, if you're doing those types of situations where they're prolongated, where you don't get paid until the end of the month, we might ask for about 12 months in bank statements. Now, I won't get too specifically into the whole why and how that all works in this one. But for 12 months, specifically in agriculture, is what we want to look at, because we want to look at an overall, because in seasonalities, those seasons where you don't have the consistent revenue, right? When you go maybe off season, quote unquote off season, then the revenue isn't as consistent. So we ask for those 12 months so we can get a better projection of what's happening. And so that's a little bit more niche with agriculture, and it can happen with a few other businesses. So keep that on the back of your mind. So deposit numbers vary greatly. Now let's move on to this next one. I promise I'm going to move into these ones a little bit quicker. Thank you guys for your time. Excuse me. I didn't plan to do this today, but I've had it on my mind for some time. I really want to make sure I deliver you guys the value. So whenever you guys go make an application happen, you know with 110% confidence and certainty, you will become approved without wasting days, weeks, months, and even years of sifting through old, outdated, scammy type of information, fluff, theory. So transfer accounts, a huge one, and a huge mistake us business owners do. I know this one, okay? Well, so transferring, let's say from a personal to a business account, or from one other business checking account to another. Maybe you have co-partnership. Maybe you're a co-owner. You own a certain percentage of the company, 50-50. Maybe it's 25%. We like to usually see more of an ownership. There are rent cases. But with transferring an account from personal to a business account, that's not what we want to see. We don't actually count that as actual revenue. So if you're that person who's transferring it from a personal account into this business account of yours, maybe you have multiples, we will look at that one business checking account that you've submitted, and if necessary, you have multiple businesses, we can take in that consideration and check these different types of bank statements. We'll probably ask for the bank statements and see what's happening underneath everything in your personal account. How's that checking out? We're looking into your checking account through business to make sure everything lines up. But having those transfers doesn't count as actual, doesn't report as actual monthly revenue, because what's happening in your business checking account separate from your personal checking account. So for those of you who have not, and I beg you guys, please, for your own sake, please go and get a business checking account. Also, online banking is set up, and that's actually a point I wanted to make a little bit later, but let's actually get this one out of the way. So online banking is very crucial nowadays, because we don't want to see somebody scanning their bank statements, taking a picture of it and sending it. That can cause a lot of fraudulent activity. Not to say that you are one of those people, but many people do this. If you want to scan something, send it in. It can be forged. Something can be changed. Maybe it just doesn't look right on the screen. We don't actually see it detail for detail. Maybe we're missing a part of it. So online banking, when we can extract that information from the bank statements to see what's happening in the account and what types of withdrawals you're making. Because listen, people going aside from transfer accounts, they've been getting declined with the types of withdrawals you make. I've had scenarios where people have taken out too much out of their account for maybe a gambling purpose, and what they were left with at the end of the month, or even in the beginning or middle, was hardly anything. The deposits, the remaining balance was so low that it actually, I had a hot dog earlier. I had hot dog and then a few things, but it pushed them away from getting funded. They couldn't receive the funding at all. They were declined because they had less in their account. Maybe you're in that position. Maybe you don't have less and you can get approved for something, but just know that if you have less remaining in your bank statements reflecting that, you will not get approved for everything that you wanted. So Ron says you never replied. Guys, okay, one more thing. If I don't get to you guys immediately on TikTok here with the DMs, please, if you guys can for me, submit a form. I did over so many of them. I can't give you an exact number, but I've done so many of them today. I'm looking at them right now on my email. Submit your funding details, and if you have already, I'll get back to you in time. So just give me a little bit. I was very, very, very caught up in all this today. I've been trying to get these emails out to you guys. So please, if you're one of them, go look for it. I took my time to personalize everything in those emails. Now it's up to you. The ball is in your court. If you care enough, you will. But if you don't, you're going to make excuses why, I couldn't find the email. Can you resend it to me? Do you know the subject line? No. But I sent you that text message and you did see it. Yeah, I did see it. Please, you're a business owner, take initiative. How would you feel if somebody had to continuously tell you what to do, how to do it? I don't mind. If you ask me questions, I'll help you. I'll be as open as possible. But if something can be done so simply, because the more time you take out of somebody's day, the more energy they have to put into something where they could have put that energy into somebody else. So everybody is needing help with their funding. Just be cognizant of it and get that in front of me, because I do look at a lot of these email files. If I don't get to you in the direct messenger, make sure to do that. So negative days is another one here. So negative bank days, you don't want to have anything reporting. That's pretty obvious. Nothing negative in the account reporting. And if you have, non-sufficient funds kind of goes into this category. You have no more than 5 non-sufficient funds, no more than 3 negative days within the last 3 months in bank statements. So we don't want to see any negative days reporting, because that can decline you for funding immediately. And we don't, you guys got to get this too, that we don't we look at an account, I can look at it right away and say, nope. Or I'll say, moving this one over, I got to work on this one first. This one I can come back to it. I have to do those things, guys. You guys just have to put yourself in my position. So we have negative bank days, and then we have negative month ending, okay? That's similarly, but in a different way. Kind of like that casino scenario that I drew up, that if you have a negative month ending, like you've just gone negative, maybe you've overdrafted, you've exceeded your funds, you don't have the right deposits, all these things are amounting all as one, then that can automatically decline you for funding. And even if you're an A-paper lending client, we, for the most part, will put an X on that, which I have right now. So that's very straightforward, negative month ending. And to add on, when we look at the bank statements, please, if you don't be on the fence about an offer, myself, if the underwriter, maybe even the lender has had communication with you, do not put an offer away and say, I'm going to come back to it. And then in 3 months you come back, you've had a negative day in your account that period, and now you're going to get offered nothing. Or maybe you don't have a negative day, but you have lower funds than you did prior to the months. So that will reduce everything, if not completely shut you off. People have come to me for that exact purpose. Well, for the most part, most people that don't take the offer, it's really because you're deciding. And I've been there, done that. Do that still with a lot of things. We're trying to talk it out with our spouse, and then days go by, and then you probably didn't get back to me. I've tried to follow up with you, not being pushy or salesy. I'm trying to help you understand and guide you like our underwriters do. We inform you about the offer, and if it makes sense to you, then you can go ahead and take it. We won't say, you got to take this offer, you take it. And so that can really hurt you. If you're shopping around for more offers, that is going to get reported, even if it's a soft pull. Lenders communicate with one another. You apply, it doesn't matter if it's a cash advance all in one with different companies. If it's a cash advance, maybe it's a business line of credit here, maybe it is some type of a business term loan over here, maybe it's a personal loan here, but you're applying to so many places. And what's going to happen is you're going to get a reduction, or those lenders will completely look away from you and say, no, well, you've applied with these 10 people. We've seen the information. We just don't want to work with you. And part of that is because you're undecisive. And then another part is because there's something else that they have to look at, and it could be reflecting on your revenue and your bank statements, and just something's happening, but we have to get that information to see if it's going to work out. So keep that on the back of your mind. If you guys have an offer right now on the table from myself, but you're contemplating it, maybe you're not happy with the terms you're getting, with the types of rates, that's a whole different subject and for a different time. And I've spoken about that on the channel, so make sure you guys go to the bio, go to the YouTube channel, and then check all this out. One second, we'll get into these questions at the end. I do appreciate them. Keep bringing them up. So we have the monthly ending, and then this is a big one. Modifying your bank statements. Have you guys been in this position before? Let me know in the comment section. Do you guys know anybody who has modified their bank statements? 1, 2, 3, maybe even more. Have you been a victim of this? This is a huge problem. See, the lenders have a system, and I won't start naming the products and how does it all work. I know how this stuff works. Over 99% of the time, they can find out if these are truthful or not. Is it fraudulent or not? Don't be that person. And I hear it with the underwriters every single time. They get at least a few people that come in every single week who try to modify their bank statements because they weren't happy with the offer they were getting elsewhere. So they took what they learned over here, right? I know how you guys are. You take the offer you got from over here and you say, well, it looks like I'm getting it over there too. Now I'm talking to this person. I don't think anything will change, so I might just end up changing these bank statements. And you try to go through all that effort when I can find out too. The underwriters can find out right away, especially with their system. And from there, you can automatically get declined. And this can also result in really no lenders wanting to fund you. And even though you've not gone through the whole process, they will not want to fund you. So we are very serious when it comes to getting you funding online. This is no joke. I mean, I get it's not life or death. It's like, well, I'm going to wake up tomorrow. But are you going to wake up tomorrow feeling refreshed that you have a business you can inject money into so that you can see out the next day over and over with this habit and this routine of waking up feeling good that your business is taken care of, whether you are present or not, whether you're on the outside, you're hanging out at home to take care of your kids, to feed them breakfast, to hang out with your spouse, to give them a nice little kiss. But on the same thought that runs through your mind is, look, I don't have to be running up and down. I don't have to worry about getting out the door as quickly as possible because I have what I need and I can take care of what I need, and that'll also support me in return. So you got to think about it that way. So modifying bank statements, I do not want to get into, I can get into the nitty gritty of what's happened and every little piece of it because I've seen these things, but I'm not going to. 7, personal bank statements. So this is kind of similar to what I was talking about earlier when we were transferring accounts. So personal bank statements, business bank statements, 2 different purposes. Right? So we want to look at these business bank statements, not your personal ones. And I get you may have them. You may have something better reporting on them. We're not operating. Some companies don't operate with personal loans. You have to understand that if you're applying for some type of a business loan, it's not a personal loan. So we have to look at the business account information and solely base it off of that. Personal loans and other pieces of information that can be for another subject and another time, but we're strictly sticking on with business loans. And if you need help with the personal loan or anything else included, go to the bio, submit a funding form. You can also pick up the free resources like the free 6-step pre-approval lending checklist that you will not get elsewhere. It's very thorough experience. And just so you guys know, I'm going to continue to bring this kind of content to you, And I'm going to show you what our underwriters, what our lenders want. And as I keep evolving, more of this will come out. You don't see this a lot of the time. Maybe you see it with some real estate funding channels, but you're going to get a lot of this. So personal bank statements, that's number 7. And then our number 8, drum roll please. This is our jackpot. Can you guys guess what this one is? I'll give it 10 seconds. If you guys can comment what other MCA positions are available. Oh, that's funny. I just kind of said it, didn't I? I just put it out there. So it's other MCA positions. That's kind of funny. I was looking at the word too, and it's one of those things where you're thinking one and then you're seeing something, so you say what you're actually seeing. I know you guys probably have gone through it. But other MCA positions, the biggest one out of all of them. And the reason this one is, and I have so much experience seeing this over and over, and it comes to me predictably every day I see it. I know for a fact every day. I've dealt with people today who said, well, they tell me about the company. They tell me that they have more than one position. They have maybe 70,000 here. They got 14,000 here. They have until a certain month to pay it all off. They've only paid off this amount. How realistic is it for me to get another position? Whether that's a cash advance or you're trying to stack on something else. Most lenders, listen to this, most lenders will not consider another advance or another loan past the first position. That's most. So if you currently have one advance, some type of a loan elsewhere, and in your mind you're thinking, well, if I got, and I'm going to write it down just so I can see it here. If I got 70K offered and I took it with my other company here, and I won't say any names, now I'm in here paying this off, I'm not happy with the rates, I got to use some type of debt, I'm taking on too much, I got credit cards building up, I want to move some things over, and then I got to move out in maybe 4 months, so I have to take a certain amount of funding to restore my company back and to preserve what I'm going to need in the future. There's so many different reasons. There's so many different cases. I'm not going to jump into them all here, but if you're in one of these positions, I've likely spoken to you. So 70K here. And what are your expectations when you go to another company? Usually you have a number in mind because of what you're considering you already have within your first or maybe your couple 2 to 3 positions. Maybe you have a 70K already, maybe you have a 60K, and maybe you got a 10K. That's a little too much, and I'm going to tell you right now, not a lot of lenders will actually accept this, no matter the strength of your business, and I'll get into this in a moment with A-Paper lending clients. But if you have a 70K, we're talking about just one position for the moment, and then you're over here thinking, well, I just need an extra 20K. I mean, that will be sufficient enough. Maybe you have a good amount of knowledge like I do, that if you have 70K here, you may not get accepted for 70K over there. So I have an equal, crossing that out. Meaning that because you got 70K over here does not mean you're going to get another 70K over there. I had this is one of my very first clients in the space. This gentleman, well, it probably was because I didn't explain it as thoroughly. I was just getting started with all of it. But they were going to get offered 80K from one of our companies. And it turned out he wanted maybe like another 80K. But that other 80K he had already been approved for. So he took an offer in the same time that we were kind of talking over it. He saw another offer over here. He took that amount at 80K. And he thought, I'm going to come over here and do another 80K. Automatic declined because we noticed that person was trying to stack. Don't be a stacker. Don't purposely stack. Don't think that you can get away with it, because it, one, will either decline you from getting funding, or two, you'll get a reduction. So if, again, you wanted 70K over here and you wanted another amount over there, we will not give you equal to 70K. We may even give you, it could in some cases be like 10 to 20, 30,000 less. But in many cases, you might see around 10 to 20, 10 to 30K off of that 70K. So it could become a huge reduction. And so that seems to be the case. I'll get to you guys right here in just a second. I'm about to wrap up and I'll answer some questions. Thank you guys for being here. I do appreciate it. It's hard for me to be in video. Like because I've become so used to it now. Like my thing is blogging, but I want to make sure you guys have the value, that you're just not getting it in a piece of paper, that you guys can actually see me visually. And if you feel you're getting a lot of value out of this, make sure you share this with other people who are looking for lending, alternatively, business credit, because that's another option. If you're a startup, build business credit. That's not tied to your personal credit score or your social security number. I've spoken with people today that I've already helped them with it. But it's up to you to go through the information. Take time. I know you're busy. You have something to do here. I catch you guys sometimes in the middle of your shift. You're running something. I'll get back to it later. It doesn't happen. You go out. You do things with the spouse, with the family, whatever it is. What is that information again? I get it. But make sure you take the time. So you're going to get a reduction, or you won't get accepted at all. In those cases where you're stacking, you are a lot of the time not going to get approved. So don't do that, because we all communicate with one another and the approval amount becomes less and less. We can take those like first, second, third positions. Like you have positions, meaning you have a loan or an advance with a different company, and now you're coming to a new one and you're trying to add to what you initially had over here. So if we had 70 and 60, which is 130K, maybe you over here want another 30K over here, so you're at 160, and that'll make your goal, right? That's a lot of what we have in mind, because this is where I'm going to go with it. A lot of people, you won't get, a lot of the times you will not get your full amount in one shot. Unless you're an A-paper lending client who's doing at least preferably 50K, 700 plus credit score, at least 2+ years in business, everything else checks out. Cash flow, the amount of deposits in the account, the amount of checks, what's been bouncing, how many withdrawals, what types of withdrawals are you making. That's what we also look at. Like again, the scenario with the casino, person was gambling, had an addiction to it, went the opposite way. So I'm running low on percentage. We have 10%, so I'm going to get through these over here. I'm interested in a business loan. Happy to hear that, Mile. So not to take up too much time asking you questions here, like I said to everybody else, make sure to go to the bio, submit the funding detail form, and then I will get back to you. So hold on, let me bring up something really quickly here so I can show reference. And I'm on my laptop, guys. You guys leave me a little bit of questions if you guys have anything. And for those of you who have been asking me about the SBA EIDL approval, go to the channel. I'm not going to spend time talking about the process of how much time it takes, the appeal, the reconsideration. Make sure you guys go through that in the channel. You guys can type in SBA EIDL and it'll bring up a piece of content on it with the reconsideration and the approval process there. So, I mean, buying a house under your name, I mean, it can happen. You know, you want to have an identity with an LLC, business attached to the house, that's okay. So you can go down that route. Okay, so OB here says, I have a vending machine company. I have 5 locations, but I need funding for the machines. Okay. Yeah, definitely I can help you with this. I'd like to gather more information about what specifically you want to do. Specifically with what type of funding you're looking for. That's all the information I'm going to gather. So you can go to the bio, submit the funding details on the business loan form, and then I will go through it thoroughly with you. And I will have a discussion. I'll send you a thorough email, and you'll get an explanation of what you can qualify for. But I'll ask some questions of you, like what specifically are you going to be using your funds for? Maybe I'll even ask, are you rate sensitive? What are your expectations in terms of terms? And so much more. But I'm not going to get into it specifically here in this chat. So make sure you guys go to the bio to submit that. And if you're wondering, back to the question of buying a house underneath your business name, and I've had this with other people. I was just thinking about a few family members who have done this. There are many advantages to it. The type of privacy is one of them. But I don't want to touch too much on the subject of this. I want to keep it on a linear path. We could probably speak about that at a different time, but I've seen that happen before. So let's see here. You're welcome. So I'll stick on here for a few minutes. If anybody has anything else, I've covered everything, I'm sure. And if I haven't seen it, I do apologize. Okay, looks like I've answered everybody's questions. You are welcome, Miles. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for asking. Thank you for participating. Each one of you. So okay, so about those hot dogs, So there were some toppings on it and some onions and some bell peppers, and I think that's what got to me. But it was very delicious. Very grateful that I had a meal today. And I didn't have lunch, guys. So I jogged in the morning. I'm very disciplined about what I do. So I went to go jog in the morning for about 20 to 30 minutes, got home, showered, and then I didn't eat and I only had a banana up until like 10:30. And then the whole afternoon, I really started working on all these files. You're welcome, Eric. See, I can't even say the word welcome anymore. It's been a long day. And I get sometimes like this when we're doing like a video. But the thing is, I didn't have a lunch. I only had an apple. And then I went to go relax. I actually showered and then I like laid on the bed because I needed space. I needed my time away to just kind of rejuvenate and to refresh my mind. And then I came back here, did a few things, had dinner, and then came back in here, and then I'm presenting to you guys. So that is everything from me, guys. I'm running low on my battery percentage. I don't want it to die. And I will talk to you guys at a later time. You might hear from me later on in the week, maybe Thursday. Who knows? And if not, keep looking out for my content. Go to the bio, download my free resources, submit a form for funding. You won't regret it. I'm going to help you very thoroughly. Thank you. Bye.